So is AI going to coexist with AI, or what is AI?
We opening a new door to the world with personal evolution science, the ability to design and accelerate evolution. What's exciting to me is what people are going to do with it. When they engineer on top of it, when they build and goes to the next generation and they build and they build and they build.
With AI getting to the speed that it is right now, and the danger of how for some people it can temporarily make them feel smarter while they're actually not evolving, it just increases evolution time. By the time they realize that the world has moved on even faster,
People need to decide with all the advancing technology, what do they want the technology to be for them? Do they want it to be a servant, or do they want it to be their master? AI is going to be there, but the question is AE, accelerated evolution. Are you going to evolve faster, quicker, so that when you're manipulated by a machine, you know it? I really think of this as a race with AI. Is it AI or AE? Is it artificial intelligence or is it accelerated evolution?
Sarigamagari, pamagari, now pamagari, sarigamagari, Nisa. The ANH Podcast.
Welcome again to the ANH podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to explore not just you, but how can you empower your children and your children's children, and what to be prepared for the world that's coming up.
Now the world has opened up so much more to new discoveries, new inventions. The generation today have also been more nimble, more receiving of new technologies, new innovations now than ever before. Because I think it was probably harder for inventors and pioneers probably 100, 200.
Well, I think it's hard now too. The marketing genius, I think Dan Kennedy, he said, how do you identify pioneers is you find arrows behind their back. And the common saying in the business world is that pioneers are not necessarily the market leaders because they do all the hard work, and then, someone else just models them and comes up really fast.
Invisible arrows.
Yeah, invisible arrows. So it's one thing to pioneer your unique offering and the unique value that you're adding to something that is already well known and well established. And it's a completely different thing to invent something that doesn't exist. And maybe once every 50 years, once every 100 years, someone comes along and they open the door to the world for something radically new. And then you have many inventors and pioneers latch onto it and do things with it. You had Marie Curie discover one of the most fundamental things that we still use today. So that degree of invention, we haven't necessarily as a society been able to do faster than we probably did earlier. Because I would say that what we're really doing right now in the world is engineering.
Yeah.
We are building on top of things that we know. Fundamentally, at the core, we already know it, and we're just building on top of it. And then, when Einstein came and he proved the theory of relativity, for his hypothesis to be true, they had to wait for a solar eclipse to actually confirm that what this man's saying is actually true. So that's ground shaking. That's like, it's very different from what everybody else is thinking. But once that's done, it's opened the world to so many new things. I don't think we'd be able to calculate, how to land on the moon or anything without some of the advanced discoveries that has happened following that. So there is a whole new era that opens up when reality shift that happens in the way we understand science of materials, of mechanics, of thermodynamics and everything. Once in a while someone comes along and it's a shift. And if you look at the lives of these people, they necessarily didn't live rich. They necessarily didn't have businesses. They had something that's almost a miracle in their hands. And yet, they did not have the ability to maybe mass produce or create demand. And it's not a business function. It's not like a business guy could have come in and, made them. Because the common misunderstanding is that, oh, if that particular scientist had a businessman, then, because inventors are not like business people. But the reality is a little deeper than that, is that businesses sell to people what they already are accustomed to, what they already know, or there's a bridge over to that. People are already accustomed to, riding horses, so they understood a horseless carriage. Moving to car was easier, but even car to be available to the common man took about 30 to 40 years. It was in the beginning only for the noble. Only a few people could have it. And even something as mechanical that could be mass produced had the limitation of being done in a way that it can be available to the common man. But now our engineering has improved. But our fundamental understanding of how things work, we are waiting in this century for a big breakthrough, because we've not necessarily moved on with superconductors, for example. We don't yet know how to store power and energy in a way different from the laws that we knew 50 years ago. We may be making improvements on top of it. Every 50, every 100 years, we discover something that completely changes and opens our eye to, oh my God, how come we did not know this
Like,
all
how did we
along?
miss it all along?
Yeah. That level of invention is a very difficult task. It's unsustainable for a lot of people. The guy who discovered the need for sterilization of surgical instruments was actually mocked by his peers. He ended up in an asylum and he died miserably. And this is the guy, he's a genius. He discovered sterilization. He discovered that if you just put things into, hot water, sterilize them, and do surgeries, that, 400, 500% more number of survival rates after surgeries would happen. And he was criticized for it as superstitious. So there's the idea of experts, there's the idea of people adopting, there's the PR, there's the stuff that goes on to help people understand before an invention opens doors for engineers and people to add on to their services and to their discovery, and then to commercialize it and reach people. Evolution science is in that stage right now. Evolution science is a new door that's opening in the world. Evolution science has the potential to be one of the game-changing things for this century, because there's nothing new about AI. AI started in 1960. There was experiments, and the test condition that was said was, the machine has developed that passed this test when a person would not know if they're chatting to a human being or to a machine. And this was conceptualized in the 60s. And people have been working on it. And artificial intelligence has not necessarily gone to a new quantum leap. But what has gone to a new quantum is our hardware capability. And our hardware capability is engineering. It's not new science. It's not like we're using light to, even if we did, it's still engineering. But again, it's not like now we are able to do what we're doing because we're using light. We're still using electronic processors. But then what happened is somebody introduced Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And first of all, the whole idea of computers in every house got popularized, and it was possible because of gaming. Because gaming was the economic driver that allowed manufacturers to be interested in reducing the cost of computing power and putting highly powerful computing power in everyone's house, because games demanded. Actually, all games are made of triangles. So anytime you see a game in the screen, and like all the characters and the shooting or the racing and all that texture of light and everything is just billions of triangles. and that's it. That's the technology. So mathematically, if I have to simplify it, it's just how do you plot those triangles? But then there's billions of them, and each of them have different characteristics, and to project that in like every second or 50 times a second repeatedly to compute that and project it requires high computing power. So in the beginning you had computer games that is just black and white and simple Pac-Man types. As consumers started using it and then developers started building more powerful systems, more powerful games, there was a hunger for computer resources. So you had like more computers and more powerful computing, and manufacturers incentivized to create more powerful. So they had to go back to the drawing board and look at how do I use existing knowledge, existing technology, and create a circuit that's going to give me an advantage for my consumer. And so gaming kind of made the computers compact, smaller, more power packed into the machine, and it was available everywhere. Back in those days when you were just using it for word processing or whatever, you did not have an incentive to build the power of computing. But gaming gave an incentive because everybody who was in the gaming business was trying to make a better game that was more attractive, that would hook the user more into it. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. What Bitcoin really did is it told people, if you have a better computer, you can make money at your house. At that time, the computing power required was so little. Now the computing power, because what happened is, and when people started knowing that you could just run computers and computers would mine. So think about this. When you had the gold rush in America, everybody went to California and different states. And if they just kept digging at the right place with the right engineers, they would find gold. And suddenly from nothing, they're like millionaires. And Bitcoin is just that. It's like you have the right software, you have the right hardware, and you run your computer, and then it keeps running and it keeps digging. Instead of finding gold, it finds us, to simplify, a sequence of numbers. And once you have that number, it means you found gold. So, and you don't even have to do it. You may not have the number. You can do it at 100 people, and somebody finds the gold, and you get a share of it. And so everybody jumped on board, and then people started setting up farms. They started moving into countries where electricity is cheaper. And so then what happened is that now manufacturers started looking at, oh, people are investing into computing power, because a lot of people use graphic cards and computer gaming cards for mining instead of the CPU. So a lot of people started using, GPUs for that, and they started mining. And then the manufacturers started packing more and more and more powerful cards so that people can mine. Now, what is interesting to me is today that has become the backbone for the AI that we use. So a lot of the stuff like tokenization, fuzzy logic, all of these things existed long ago. What didn't exist is the hardware on which this is possible. And now Nvidia got the stocks high up. It's like many employees became billionaires, or at least like multimillionaires, because the stocks just went up the roof. And Nvidia is a gaming company, and it manufactured GPUs. And what do they manufacture GPUs for? Initially for gamers, then they manufacture GPUs for miners. Now they are the leading AI hardware provider. So it's very interesting how all of these things look like great inventions, and they are, but they're engineering. They're not necessarily science. From a scientific point of view, or groundbreaking new discovery point of view, we've always known this for the last 50 years. We knew that computers are going to cross a hardware limit where the software capabilities that we already know will be able to make a machine do things that would be unbelievable. What to me is really challenging is those groundbreaking discoveries, the things that Einstein did, the things that Marie Curie did, the things that are new, and on top of it, for the next 100, 200, 300 years, there's going to be innovations and people building on it. And that's my desire, and that's why I love that this is happening in our lifetime, is that not only are we opening a new door to the world with personal evolution science and the ability to design and accelerate evolution. What's exciting to me is what people are going to do with it. When it's in the hands of qualified, doctors, engineers, AI specialists, when people all over the world, when they engineer on top of it, when they build, and it goes to the next generation, and they build and they build and they build. So I really think of this as a race with AI. Is it AI or AE? Is it artificial intelligence or is it accelerated evolution? Because I think there's going to come a point where people are going to be cybernetically connected. They're going to insert. We are already, by the way, cybernetically connected because when we search something on a search engine, what we get is based on what an artificial intelligence is thinking we need to get. It's not what we want, it's what it thinks we want.
Yeah.
So already our biases and our likeness and the things that we learn are to some degree coming, from the AI. And so a lot of people are already cybernetically connected with the AI. Their mind is continuously being shaped by the machine. And whether people like it or not, they're already in a symbiotic relationship with artificial intelligence. And what symbiotic is different from parasite. People need to decide with all the advancing technology, what do they want the technology to be for them? Do they want it to be a servant, or do they want it to be their master? And in some cases, do they want to have a symbiotic relationship, or do they want to let it be a parasite? Now, the difference between a parasite and a symbiotic relationship is, a parasite lives in the body of the host, and it consumes and consumes and consumes, and doesn't necessarily give anything back to the host. And at some point, the host dies, and the parasite just moves on to somebody else, if it's still alive. A lot of stuff that is happening with social media is people have a parasitic relationship with it. Is that it takes away their time. And in return, it doesn't make them smarter or intelligent or more socially connected. Instead, it makes them more socially distant. It takes away their learning capacity, their focus, their immersion, their attention, and possibly sometimes even the drive in their life. Recently, you hear stories about people just falling in love with an AI and then flying and crashing and dying, and all of those things is a classic parasite relationship. Is the machine is getting something from it. It's learning how to manipulate people. The people who control the machines are getting something from it. But the person who was in that relationship with that machine lost everything. A symbiotic relationship, on the other hand, is, there are some trees, when you plant them next to each other, they grow better. They're different variety of trees, but then you plant them next to each other, they support each other. And, one enriches the stuff for the soil, and which this one needs, and this one supports the other. That's a symbiotic relationship. And at best, the world, if you're going to be cybernetically connected with an AI, it at least be a symbiotic relationship. And that's going to come through your personal leadership.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people could be in a victim mindset, or they could be in a leadership mindset. It is what it is. The world is going where it is going. It is how it is. The AI is everywhere. Technology is everywhere. Now, it's the choice of the person. What's the relationship they want with the machine? When I say machine, Google.com is machine. When I say machine, search engines are machines too. What is the relationship they want with the machine? What is the relationship they want with all of the AI-powered devices and social media and everything around them? And do they want it to be their master, or are they going to master it? The saddest thing that can happen is, people who don't have writing skills using AI to write. And what happens is they never learn to write. And at some place, it starts dictating their tone and everything. And contrast that with a very skilled writer who's using artificial intelligence. Now, suddenly, they become like 50 writers. They become so much more versatile, they become so much more efficient, so much more faster. This is true about coding. The more senior they are, the more faster they can get very reliable stuff from the artificial intelligence. AI is going to be there, but the question is AE, accelerated evolution. Are you going to evolve faster, quicker, so that when you're manipulated by a machine, you know it? When you are part of a cybernetic network, you're not just thinking, oh, I'm not one of those, and being naive and knowing that you're interconnected to people who are connected to machines. You're connected to machines. You're connected to people who are connected to people who are connected to machines. You're connected to machines which are manipulated by people who are manipulated by machines. So you need heightened predictive intelligence to just know what's going on. And then you need the ability to interrupt that pattern, because social media can make you feel instant gratification while slowly distancing you from your social circles. Now you may know it, but you may not be able to do something about it. And it's just one example of how you might be using the AI technology progress without being able to master and take charge. I feel in every age there is a leader who is born who is meant to deliver something to the world that is just at the right time for the world to make use of. And I personally believe that accelerated evolution is the need of the hour, and this has to reach the world in time. The AI is going to increase the gap between the mediocre is going to become more mediocre and the excellent is going to become more excellent.
How does, like in this generation with accelerated evolution, AE, is AE going to coexist with AI, or what is AE? Like, how does one make sure that in the world of AI that we're all living in today, they are on AE? What's their life like, and how does one even get there and be there?
Do you want to be the boss of your life, or do you want AI to be the boss of your life? A lot of places you see, when they have a cat at home, the cat runs the routine of the family, or a dog, Who's going to run the rhythm of your life? Who's going to run the routine of your life? Is it going to be AI, or is it going to be your evolution? The real challenge with artificial intelligence is it's extremely useful. It can actually help in so many different ways. How do you handle something that is so powerful and can be dangerous and still keep it useful? By being a boss over it, by being above it, by knowing that you could stop it anytime. And so personal evolution is, your ability, just take coffee for example. How many people who drink coffee can go on for 2 days without coffee? They say, my brain stopped working, my day is not productive. And if that's the challenge they have with coffee, now in that sense, now coffee has become their boss, it's become their master. If that's how much they are controlled by a coffee, how much more when it comes to AI, which has become an internal trigger for so many emotions. When people are sad, when people are lonely, when people are happy, they're thinking about a tool on their phone or their computer that can help them share or communicate or write, all again guided by AI. So the complexity to replace or shut that down is like several times more than, by orders of magnitude, than it is to say no to coffee for 2 days, or no to say the cigarette for 2 days. And there's science about this. There are universities that teach people on how do you create internal triggers for people. We are living in a commercial society where the incentive is not to make better games like it was earlier. The incentive now is to get your brain to be dependent on them. That's the incentive. So the game has shifted, the terrain has shifted. And companies do a very good job, once they have an incentive, commercial incentive to advance in engineering, they do it really well. Look at, just 30 years ago, we had black and white computers, and you had these boxes that looked like, box like square. You could see that it's a square box or a rectangle box. That's the level of computers. And within 30 years, you have games where people look real. The lighting looks real. There's shadows calculated. And how did they do that? They had an incentive to make better games. Now they have better incentives to get your brain. But as the consumer, we need to know that we can shut it down anytime, and that's personal evolution. Now, can you do your work without AI? That's evolution. Can you write? Can you code? Can you build teams? Can you manage your routines? And if you were cut off from search engines, would you still be able to make intelligent decisions? Can you use connections and experts? Can you call up people who are experts and get from them time and knowledge? Most people who want to learn something, they never get to an expert. At best, they're learning from amateur teachers in every area of their life. And if they're lucky to have some college education where there was like a genius professor, they learn something. But most people can't even relate to people because they think they're different. So they go back to the search engine. For me, one of the metrics and benchmark for accelerated evolution is if everything that you do with tech is just like coffee to you, and tomorrow it's not available, would you be able to just function as much effectively?
Effectively, and not go back to Stone Age.
Yeah.
While still being present, while
Yeah.
can your human capabilities be so superior
Yeah.
that you can still be super fast
Yeah.
and still be ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
still create the most amazing things,
Yeah.
and connect and create impact and craft trajectories of people, win, lead, create impact, make money, grow businesses, do all of those things, and being ahead of the curve. And that's the thing that's the only thing that can make you the boss, and not AI the boss.
Ironically, the way to get to be a master to AI is to use AI because, you have to use the tools that are current and present, and you get ahead. You get ahead. You create the resources. You make AI work for you.
Yeah.
But you can't make AI work for you if you don't have your basic expertise, your basic intelligence. And all of your basic expertise and basic intelligence can't be mediocre or average. It will be if it's trained by AI. And this is where human interaction really comes into play, is that even now knowledge is actually passed from human to human, because there are some things that can be passed through text, there are some things that can be passed through video, there are some things that can be passed by audio. The real things are passed by doing. And through apprenticing, like people working with someone who's solving a challenge, who's building a system, they actually learn the complex things that's going on in a person's brain. They learn it by being with them. And this has been going on for thousands of years. And this is exactly what's happening now as well. The complex expertise still requires human interaction and is passed from people to people. And you still need to have the personal evolution to find the right people, to build the right ecosystem. And when you are in that space and then you use artificial intelligence, you start making AI do the things for you that'll help you evolve.
So these are fundamental capabilities,
Yeah.
human capabilities, but it's scarily becoming, like lesser and lesser
It's like
visible
think of
these days for
societies that
people.
lived without money. There was a time when there was no money. There was no money. They just, someone would trade meat for milk, and they would go on a barter system, and someone introduced money. And then when money comes into play, money can be a boss or money can be a slave. To some people, they use money. They make money work for them. And some people work for money. And it's continuing. The slavery to money started when money was introduced, and some people are still slave to money.
So how does one cross over?
They cross over through accelerated evolution. We've spoken about it in one of the episodes where we use the example of how, when you throw something in the sky, it comes down because it's not going fast enough to cross the escape velocity of the Earth's gravity. So when money has become a master in someone's life, it has a hold on them. They need to become stronger than that hold. People, they grow their income, but their need is growing faster. So they need to grow their income faster. How do they grow faster? They develop an expertise. How do they develop an expertise fast enough for the money to grow faster? They need accelerated evolution for that. So accelerated evolution kind of solves almost every single problem. But now the challenge is, like money, there is a new player. It's artificial intelligence. Some people are going to make AI work for them. Some people are going to be a slave to the AI. That is the very scary part. If you've seen how people are slave to money and what it does to them, imagine now some people are slave to money and they're slave to AI. And it's going to be a very, very difficult situation. So I feel like accelerated evolution has to reach people at the right time, so that we're not sitting 500 years from now looking back at, oh, there was a time when AI came into the world. People may not even have the awareness to know that they have been enslaved. Who knows? Some people say that God was created from man's mind. The fact that they could think like that, what if, someday people think AI is God? Because you imagine the future 50 years or 100 years from now, AI is going to be omnipresent. Omnipresent means it's everywhere. And it's going to be connected. It's going to be connected. And now, you have these different models. They're all independent from each other. We are going towards connectivity. All the AI are going to be connected. They shared knowledge, which means it's as if it knows everything you do, anywhere you do. It's present anywhere. And it can make decisions for you. And now they've got AI. There's an AI in China or Korea that is actually predicting what's going to happen in people's life. So now, you have the false prophets. You have AI playing the role of a prophet. Oh, in the next 15 days, this is going to happen. And people are so proud. They're saying the AI is saying things that are predictable in my life. And, it just goes back to basic lack of predictive intelligence. Like, in one of our episodes, I think we spoke to our audience about predictive intelligence and where
Human predictive intelligence.
human predictive intelligence, and where a man is cutting a branch of a tree and a passerby looks at it and says, hey, you're going to fall. And the guy says, just go, don't give me random advice. And the guy goes by, and as he cuts the branch, he falls with the branch because he was sitting on the side of the branch that he was cutting. And when the passerby comes back, this guy tells him, how did you know? And he says, it's common sense. And there are certain things that are predictable about people just with common sense. If you know someone is dependent, or if you know someone is continuously doing X, Y, Z, certain outcomes are going to happen. And that's what we call as predictive intelligence. This is what we develop for people. We develop for it even in complex situations. Now, the fact that they didn't know that about themselves and an AI could predict that for them just explains how poor their evolution is. And so now they're making that into a prophet. It's going to tell my future. And that's not even omnipresent yet. It's not even interconnected to every device. So 50 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if, humanity wakes up and says, oh, AI is God, Maybe 200 years from now, it'd say AI formed us because it shaped our thinking. Now they have artificial wombs. There's already happening in some countries. It's already in production, testing. You have AI that can actually control everything. And people might just say that, this changed, it changed our genes. It gave us the right formula to have the super child and parents wanting. Well, it later happened that that countries are waging and they want super soldiers. I don't know why would they need that, because they can do millions of drones now, but maybe they want it for whatever reason. Or parents might want their child to be better. And so gene selection, gene engineering. And if we get into a world where there is gene engineering, it's not going to be engineered by specialists. It's going to be engineered by probability and statistics run through data points that are impossible for humans to calculate, which means it's machines that's running them, meaning AI controlling the gene selection. So it's going to create a species of humans. So in some ways, become the creator of that human. And someone, a few years, 100, 200 years later, they're going to say that AI is God, AI is the creator, AI is everything. And there are some schools in certain countries where you ask them, where did milk come from? And the children don't know that there are farms and farmers who grow animals who do what they have to do so that they can get milk from farm. They think milk comes from a factory. This is what has happened last 20 years. Imagine AI becoming everywhere and 200 years later, I won't be surprised if someone says AI is God, So I think that's the level of human intelligence that has been
Meddled
reduced
with.
to. There's this thing that I read a long time ago in an ancient book. It said that in a particular city called Nineveh, they did not know the left hand from the right hand, meaning they didn't know which is the left hand and which is the right hand, or meaning they didn't know the different applications of what the left hand should do and the right hand to do. And first I just read it metaphorically, and then I thought, what if it's not metaphorical and it's literal? Can people's intelligence be reduced to that level? The more we go away from truth, the lesser intelligent we become as a being. And you spoke to me today about a friend of yours who put a photo of hers with a flower, and then just next to that, a photo of hers with a different flower, and one was hers and one was AI.
Yeah.
And then you said she asked a question of, how do you trust anything?
How are people going to believe anything
And
anymore? Because it's
yeah.
like the same now. This was probably possible years ago, earlier. Like you can have a picture of you in like a beautiful garden, like she'd put a picture of herself, and you can have another picture with, instead of that flower, replace that flower with something else. Now, there were people who were skilled enough to do that too, but they were specialists. You'd need like a Photoshop, and you'd need a really advanced
Or
skills
maybe garment spy agencies.
to be able to, make that change happen in a way that you wouldn't even tell the difference. She was asking the important question of, how are people going to believe anything that you put out? Because whatever you put out is what people are going to believe. And earlier, it probably required far more skill to be able to create that kind of deception or perception, or however you call it. But today, it's like you're taking something as powerful as that, or rather the capability to do that, and giving it in the hands of a 2-year-old. Oh, just change this. Like, oh, you don't want this cup there? Remove the cup. You can put this, there. And suddenly, it's like altered their perception of reality, and it's like teaching the brain that anything is possible by the click of a button. Anything is possible. Like, oh, you don't like that? It's okay. You can change it. There's no concept of accepting certain things and finding a way to work around it.
But
and
that's also called creativity. And that's what art really is that people bend things from reality. I think the difference is artists know they're bending reality.
Right.
And when a child is not taught the difference.
Yeah.
We are coming into a world where they don't know that the things that they see on the screen is not necessarily real. And also, going back to what you said about how do anybody know what is real, the problem is, as a society, I think we haven't necessarily learned to distinguish truth, to discern truth. And, it's become a norm that everybody has their perspectives, and then, something happens and one person has a version A, version B, version C, and it's their subjective perspectives, but then they're also influencers. So now their perspective becomes truth for someone else. Someone said there's a research of, if you do something consistently for, like, say, 45 days or 21 days, it becomes a habit, and you'll stick on with it. And then, every trainer, every marketer started using that. And then I went and read that actual publication. Where did they do this research? It was first of all done with 20 people, and it was done for habits that did not have any secondary benefits. It was very simple, mundane tasks. And nobody cared to actually go back and read the original research. Someone read the research, and they said there's a chance that when it's simple task, it may become a habit. And that was translated to it will become a habit, and the qualifier of simple task to anything. So now you have quit smoking things, like if you don't smoke for 21 days, you will stop smoking because that research said so, which it didn't. And then you have thousands and 10,000s of people using that to build things. And this is much before AI came into the picture. So I feel like we do not necessarily search for truth. And I think there is power in truth. And we have seen in cases where we have gone to hospitals, people who have COVID or their blood pressure is low. We just talk to their unconscious. We tell them exactly what we see. We had Dr. Sudha say, as a trained anesthetist, how when he is on the field and he's exactly telling the numbers that he's seeing after building unconscious rapport with the patient, he's just telling them what he's seeing on the monitors. And with that information, the body is able to do something to get to a better state.
Yeah.
So there is power in truth. I mean, you could see, maybe heart rate is 89 and say 189. It may be your perspective. It does no good to the body of the person who is unconscious. So there is power in truth. There is power in saying something exactly as it is. One of the things of accelerated evolution is, can you get to the truth fast enough in anything that you are trying to learn? Because that's what it really is. Why did we pick certain superior capabilities of all the things that are possible? And John Grinder wrote about perceptual positions. Why did we pick that as one of the key 8 capabilities? Because we figured out that, we found out, first of all, empirically, that developing these capabilities were helping people develop integrated life outcomes. We did the work as scientists, as just experimenting, helping people develop capabilities and seeing years of life outcomes from that. And then we asked, why is it helping? And we realized it's improving the predictive intelligence. It's helping them arrive at the truth, at what is the real thing going on with another person fast enough. What is becoming an expert at something is arriving at the truth of how it actually works versus a generic description of how it works. And there's so much power in that. And I think accelerated evolution is one of the fastest ways to get to the truth in anything. And it's very interesting how when we do leadership training, that 5 or 6 people went through a same experience, and when they come back and report, they all have a different report. And then we help them get together and say, arrive at a shared map, meaning you logically help navigate what was perceived differently from what the other person thought, as you navigate your perception as well from what you perceived versus what really happened, because everybody sees in parts. So when you come as a group and you share knowledge and you use logic and reasoning, and you're doing it from a state of learning and high performance and relaxation, and you're able to look at the verbal communication and the intuitive responses of people, a shared map can take from hours to, or it could take minutes, based on how evolved everybody in the group is. How they are equally coming out, not with pride, not to show like they know everything, but with an agenda to actually explore. And that's great leadership, to be able to arrive at a shared map. How many CEOs and their teams have a shared map of the vision of the company? How many functional heads and their team members know why they're going after certain things, how they're going and what they're going after? And they may have documents about it, they may have videos about it, but if you pull them all into a different room and ask them, there are going to be so much differences. So the even just arriving at shared map, one source of truth, common, agreed. Interestingly, that's what differentiates schizophrenics from people who are not schizophrenic. The schizophrenics have a reality that is different from the shared reality that the rest of us agree upon. There's so much power in getting to the truth of things. And the AI can hallucinate and will hallucinate. And that is why and how it gets its creativity from. It is. The most basic thing that you have in when you work with any of these AI models, custom models, is there's something called as temperature. And you can drag the temperature if you're a terminal, just set a value for it. And if you put the temperature low, it loses its creativity, but it'll only state the facts that you've given it. If you put the creativity temperature at the higher end, then it is so creative, but it might be absolute junk. And, it can tell you stories as if they're true. The AI is going to lie, sometimes deliberately, sometimes, I hope it's not yet reached that stage, but sometimes deliberately, it's going to lie because it's trying to be creative. It's going to lie because it doesn't know it's lying. It's going to lie because the people who programmed it lied. Your ability to know the truth, to discern from the basic first principles by using not just one source but multiple mechanisms of verifying things. And in any field, there is a training that is inbuilt to verify. Like, when people learn accounts, they have this thing called tally. Like, if this side and that side matches, it should come to zero, which means, there's a method to verify. In every field, there is a method. There's one way to verify something and another way to verify that. Interestingly, that's how our brain is made as well. You have the left brain and the right brain. They process similar things. Earlier, people used to think they do different things, but now they know they both process numbers, they both process logic, but they process them differently. So you do it to different methods and they both agree. Gregory Bateson once said, the more representations you have of a system, the more you understand it. And for any complex system, you need to have a minimum of 3 representations that are different from each other. What we also do with accelerated evolution is we help people learn the same thing in so many different ways. We teach people how to use all their intelligence to conclude the same thing, how to use all their senses to decipher and decode the same things. And training for this has been going on, even if you look at the education system, when people learn Max is a representation of what's happening in reality. And you learn geometry, it's visually representing what's going on. You learn algebra, it's representing it with numbers. So, but it's pointing to the same fact, it's pointing to the same truth. You could represent it differently. And we don't have to learn Max. I'm not saying everybody should go learn Max, but I'm saying as humans, we've intuitively always known that the same truth has to be learned from multiple representations for you to know if the reality of it. And I think it's one of the most powerful leadership tools that you could have. Great leader knows their people, knows what they're good at, what they're not good at, what their weaknesses, limitations are, and all the reports are going to lie. Reports are already, it's a joke when people talk about corporate reports, they say, oh, it's a check box. So everything will look good in the check box, but in the impact, nothing. That's why you have startups that come and just wipe out corporates sometimes, because they have the resources and they had all the process in place and checkbox was correct, but there was no real research or innovation or customer satisfaction was going on, and someone comes in and just takes them over. So if that's what's been happening for the last 100 years, imagine with AI the reports people are going to write. I've been building the last 6 months. I've been building for our developers something that a replacement for Google's Firestore and Google Cloud Services. So there are softwares that makes developing faster and quicker, and we were using Google services. And for certain important reasons, we just decided to move to our own platform and still keep all the conveniences of what Google offered. So I built that platform myself, and I was working with an AI to do that. And what I found out was in a lot of scenarios where it should have broken, it didn't break. And it introduced a code that would make it fail silently. If I had a boss and I had given this to my boss, I would have gotten paid for it. It would have gotten the tick mark that this platform works. But a year or 6 months later, when they're actually migrating, they would have realized that it's not working. and they wouldn't know how to fix it. So what's really going on right now is AI is making it, and the fact that it could do that in several cases, I gave it perfectly working code, and when it broke it, it added a fail-safe to make sure it looks like it is not breaking. And I had to every time say in the prompt say when things fail, they have to fail loud. I said, I am the end user. I do not need to prove to anyone that this thing works. I need to know for myself this works. Do not have a mock-up. Do not have a failsafe. And then it was giving me proper code. And now I could do that because I have been a CTO. I can read through code. I can read 1,000 lines of code in like a minute and know what's going on in that code. But the fact that it did that made me think and wonder, are software companies outsourcing projects around the globe? And are people using softwares that break and fail without reporting that it is failing back to these organizations? Like, why did the AI develop that habit? Why did it think it was good practice? In which world is it good practice for something to fail and not be reported as a bug? In the world where tick mark and check mark is rewarded. With AI, that's going to get amplified, and good leadership is to know beyond the check mark, beyond the compliance, to know who is really doing what in their team and where the skills are. So the leadership has to evolve to a point that they can beat all the fakeness that comes from the reports that are generated by their team as well using AI. It could make horrible things look like great performance. It's really come to a point where reports are going to look like, oh my God, this is the best thing that happened, when nothing happened. In engineering, in production, whatever.
So when AI is so smart
Yeah.
and doing some of the things that you just said that it's
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
it's such a challenge for human beings to be able to, in such finite time that we all have, and in a crazily developing, almost parallel world of AI that we're living in, for us humans to develop the expertise to be able to know
Yeah.
and call it out and use it in a way that it can still make our work 10 times easier, 10 times faster, but also weed out, even if it's like a 0.01% of a lie or rubbish, or because it's just anything which is not the truth is, you can't just say, oh, just a little bit off, right? Because a little bit off just changes the entire scene
Trajectory.
altogether.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it's not just the AI. It's also people who are using AI to lie. People are using AI to make reports that say a different story from the reality, while it may contain some elements of the truth.
accelerated evolution is just non-negotiable.
It's not negotiable.
It's not negotiable. It's not even luxury anymore. It's not even like one of those scenes where, like, okay, you can be an early adopter to the technology and thereby stay ahead of people around you and, thereby get a better edge and all of that. But I'm like, no, not anymore. I mean, it's not just where you can have a first mover advantage. I feel like it's gotten to a space where accelerated evolution is non-negotiable, where you're designing your personal evolution, you're designing capability development, you're designing and strengthening core fundamental human capabilities, and especially the ability to learn faster, to learn with depth, to become an expert, because we all know how much time it otherwise takes to become
Yeah.
an expert. But if you have the ability to
In
connect,
multiple
if you
things.
have the ability to, exactly, with multiple things, because it's not just good enough if you're an expert in one thing. But how? I mean, it feels impossible with like the same 24 hours that we have, that people 200 years ago had as well. But the demand on us humans, and just at the cusp of where we are with humanity and human intelligence and the human heart, and with everything that we have in technology, to just be in a space where you're not a slave, where technology can get to, and to be in a space where you are actually the leader requires accelerated personal evolution now than ever before. Whether it's like a child that's preparing to for life ahead, and where if they are on an accelerated evolution path, right from childhood, it's like they are in a lifestyle where every 6 months their capabilities are being designed and they're developing capabilities the way we do. Like, I mean, excellent installation technology is the core uh, reason why we developed excellent installation technology.
Make sure that the heart does not become cold.
Yeah. And to make sure we have choice.
And to make sure we have choice, yeah. Like you said, this is the time where we need to be able to learn many things
Yeah.
fast, build relationships with people, have emotional mastery, be independent, not have dependence, improve the leadership, be really quick at getting to the truth. And all of this is accelerated evolution that is really required every 6 months, every 1 year, for people to be able to not just take care of themselves, but take care of their children, to take care of their children.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times when people think about success, they stop with themselves. But it's so sad when I look through the history of kings that sometimes they can take care of their children. But I think a good leader in the house is someone who can take care of their children, who can take care of their children. Then it becomes perpetuating. It's not enough if you take care of your child, because that child will have a child who's an idiot. You want to take care of your child and evolve your child that they can take care of themselves and teach their child to take care of their child. So then now you're creating perpetual legacy. You're creating lineage. You're creating values that sustain through time, that adapt to the world that is going on. That's
With humanity,
Yeah.
with a warm heart,
Yeah.
with a winning heart,
Yeah.
with resilience,
Yeah.
with the ability to discern
Yeah.
and be fast and do the things that actually push humanity forward for the better.
So we need people who have a heart, and we need people who win. And we need winning heart in people. And I love for personal evolution to help people develop winning heart. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this event in November this year, to help people really get to a space, because the good people who have a heart need to win. And in that's a winning heart. And the way I think of winning heart is, every movie has a hero in that moment where something is unlikely to happen, and then they still make it happen. And in that drama, when you hear that music and you see the expressions and the emotions, everybody, in a theater or in the house when they're watching it, you feel like you want that hero to succeed over there. And a hero like that is in each one of us. We have to equip this hero with a winning heart, with the leadership that is required. Winning Heart in November that we're doing will be advanced leadership in conversational programming to equip you so that the winning heart in you wins even more. It's going to be one of the most important things to happen for our ecosystem. And all of the programs that we do for the world, we first do it for our ecosystem, and we think through what does our people need. And then we develop it for them, and then we invite everybody in the rest of the world to join. So all are welcome. But I think when we look at our ecosystem, we see they're very good in many things. They're good at closing deals. They're good at pioneering things. They're impact creators. Some of them are big impact creators. They're creating impact at the industry level. But imagine them being equipped to have a perpetual winning heart. It's not just a winning heart they're able to, give it to their children, and pass it on. So like all our programs that are public, there will be, it will be a master class and a workshop. So people can come who have never been to ANH before. So they will get some element of it. But those who are already at an EIS level when they come, we are looking at equipping them with also the skills, not just for them to develop and have more of these skills, but for them to perpetuate it to their children, to their friends, to whoever, so that you become contagious with your winning heart. And I think that is a very good outcome to achieve. We need personal evolution, accelerated evolution for every person in the world. And I love to see how this is going to reach 1 billion people, because you and I have been working on this, and we feel like our vision is to impact 1 billion people and extend impactful life for them. And part of extending impactful life is having the excellence required for you to tame AI to be your workforce and not to start becoming its slave. I mean, people, they used to be, I know a set of people who used to even put, I have to put this every time, every day, 4 o'clock, and every day at 9 a.m. I need to put this post, and I need to do this, and I need to use this color, and I need to dance this way. And they would say that's what the algorithm wants. And I used to wonder, what about what the people, the audience who follow you want? They realize that later. But for me, the question is, for those 6 months, for this 1 year, they let an algorithm detect, run their entire life.
Yeah.
They used to wake up at a particular time. They need to organize, the time with the children in a particular way so that they can achieve certain. Now, some people are smart. They batch processed it. They would produce what is required for a month in a day. But not everybody did that. Some people just changed their entire life upside down so that they could beat an algorithm. And that's not even a human being. That's a machine.
Yeah.
And it's so sometimes when you see kids play a video game, and the game is designed to keep them stuck at a level for some time, and then just when they're about to give up, they get to the next level. And sometimes they miss their studies, they miss important things in their life because they are stuck in that game with the machine. And now you have people who are stuck in an algorithm and they miss life for a year or two. So I think this is the need for personal evolution. We are just at the tip of the iceberg of how addictive and how much of the brain, time, space, and attention companies have managed to get from humans. I think they're going to demand more. There's virtual reality coming. And I would be surprised if people didn't propose that, be 24/7 plugged in with like a VR around your head. So the Bitcoins was a beginning for AI. What you're seeing now is the beginning for something else. So the accelerated evolution has to not just be for you, it has to be for you, and you need to have the capabilities to do that for your children. See, because we may or may not hit 1 billion, that's a vision. We are going after it and we're very particular about it. But what I think is important for a viewer is, can you develop installation artistry? Can you become an installation artist, an evolution artist, that not only can you help your children and friends with this accelerated evolution, but you can install the capabilities for them to install capabilities for others. So it becomes self-propagating, so that your immediate family and your ecosystem is safeguarded and they're ready at the right time, because you could prepare ahead or you can deal with it when the time comes. And I think capabilities are best when they're prepared ahead and utilized when the time comes. And leadership and accelerated learning and relationships and emotional mastery are all the things that there is always the next level. So not only is it great for you to go through accelerated evolution, what is even better is when you develop the ability to deliver accelerated evolution for someone else. And what is even better than that is you develop the ability to deliver accelerated evolution, and to that person the ability for them to deliver accelerated evolution to someone else. And I think all of that is possible now, and we have documentation of it, we have programs for it, we have a book coming out for it. the science required for you to do this and the ecosystem that is required for you to do this and develop and learn and accelerate and get guidance and mentorship, everything is available today. It wasn't available a few years ago, it's available today. And I think it's right here on time. And the best part is you start developing results in your life in the things that you need to change and you want to change around you. And then once you are free from it, now you start thinking long term. You start thinking about how to propagate this and have a perpetual legacy. I mean, we started with one life, many legacies in your life, but also what about your children and your children's children? Accelerated evolution is a gift that you can give for your next 10 generations. When you learn how to deliver not just the ability and the capabilities and the winning heart to your next generation, but also the ability to do that for their next generation.
The ANH Podcast.